All right, let's welcome in Jimmy Dykes in here this morning. Coach Dykes is on call for the game tonight, ESPN college basketball analyst. Coach, we were just talking about Jalen Williams and how much how force he's been in the SEC in these last games, a huge part of this 6-game winning streak. What specifically have you seen from his game that you think has developed relative to where he was in his freshman year?
Well, he's a rock is what he is, and it has as much to do off the floor as on the floor in terms of, let's talk with Coach Muss yesterday, and he just talks about all the things that he does that you want a winning team to have, and his voice, how he carries himself, how he approaches practice, all those things that, things that sometimes count the most, you can't really count or put a number on, and he excels in those areas, but his versatility and his handling the ball and not turning it over as a 5 guy. He can run the offense through him, and he's rugged on the glass. He's consistent. He stays out of foul trouble for the most part. He's drawing charges, all those things you guys see him do. Those, like, you can't get bored with that stuff. He's really good right now, and Arkansas is really good. They very similar to a year ago, and they started off very poorly in conference play, and then Muss is a guy that sees the problem and fixes the problem. Now they're 6-0, and outside of Auburn and Kentucky, they're playing as good as anybody in the league.
Coach, you look at another guy that's really stepped up his game. That's J.D. Note, leading the conference in points and in steals. I was thinking back to the Elite Eight game last year against Baylor where he fouled out and they just didn't have any offense when he was off the floor. Coach Muss talked about on Monday and throughout the season how much he's improved, not just his offense, but all areas of his game. Are you surprised at how much of a jump he's taken from the 6th man of the year to the leading scorer this year?
No, because he's a kid that cares, and I knew that last year about him. So kids that care, they get better from one year to the next. Just older doesn't make you better. Like, you got to put the work in and deserve it, and that's what he is. That's who he is. And he really studies the game. He loves ball, and you're right. He's an important guard. I don't know if anyone else other than maybe Iverson Molinar, Mississippi State, as a guard that's as important to their team as he is, especially since they've gone this big lineup. So that's one of the things. Can you defend Georgia without fouling? They're not a great team by any stretch of the imagination at all, but they are pretty aggressive offensively. They beat Bama last time they're on their home floor right there in Athens, and Notes needs to stay on the floor tonight and not make sure this game doesn't have stress on it. Gets down the last couple of possessions, because Arkansas should go over there and win the game and come home for 2 big ones. And if they do, they'll be firmly in the NCAA tournament if they win these next 3 in a row.
Jimmy, let's go back to Jalen a minute and taking charges. I think the number's 26 or so he's taken this year. Give us some insight on the skills it takes to develop to be that good a charge taker in an era with a restricted arc. You got to watch where your feet are at. So many attacks to the rim. It's a highly judged play with all the camera angles and the emphasis on the officiating. What makes Jalen Williams such a good defender in taking those charges and consistently getting the call to go his way with his technique? What in his technique makes him so good?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Most people they kind of avoid that and just kind of take it for granted. Well, he was there and took a charge. That's a good question, and he's got really good eyes. I think you have to have really good eyes for the game. He always. So what does that mean? Like, he's guarding the guy that didn't have the ball. Well, he's got to always have eyes on the ball. The ball can't surprise you as a defender like that. And I think he anticipates the plays really well. To your point, he understands, has a good feel. You don't have time to look down and see where the restricted arc is. You have to have a feel for it. And you're on the floor like that, the number of minutes that he plays, that kind of becomes just kind of natural knack that you have. There's certainly guys that take a lot of charges. They have that natural knack. And I think he understands how important the game is in that regard. When I played for Coach Sutton, who he rewarded charges as much as anything that any player ever did, because you're giving up your body to get the ball back. And he's really good. You got to have some quickness about you. You got to be able to move laterally. All those things come into play. But he's right there with anyone in this league in terms of drawing charges. And defensively, he's Walker Kessler from Auburn most likely is going to be the National Defensive Player of the Year. I think he'll certainly be the SEC Player of the Year, but Jalen Williams is right there as that next guy. You think, who else impacts the game defensively in this league? It's him.
Yeah. You've watched and studied this league for a long time. As I'm sure you get this question often right now. Is this as deep as this league has ever been, with Auburn and Kentucky at the top, but so many other teams that seemingly can give them a good challenge? We saw Alabama come up about 20 short, but that game was, a 2 or 3 point game with like 12 minutes to go, then Auburn went on a run. Is this as deep as this league has been in some time?
It sure feels like it is. There's two heavyweights there at the top right now with Auburn and Kentucky. They could both win the national championship. But you've got right behind them. I had Alabama and Baylor on Saturday, and I had Alabama when they beat Houston. Like they've got wins out there that hold up to anybody's win. They just have some horrible losses, but Alabama can win 4 games and be in the Final Four. You look at Arkansas starting to come on. Tennessee they're the real deal. They've got, they beat Arizona. Arizona's what everybody talks about, and I agree. I did the game. Arizona's Final Four good. But Tennessee was, they were better than them that game. So, I answer that by saying, how good is your league? Well, can you get in the NCAA tournament and actually win games? And it's not how many teams you get in, because we saw the Big Ten last year get a record number of teams in. They all fell flat on their face. So how good was the league at the end of the year? I don't know if it's that good or not, but you're going to find out about the SEC this year, to your point, because there's 5 or 6 teams that are capable of winning multiple games. The SEC is capable of having 5 or 6 teams in the Sweet 16. That's a big number when you can put in a third of the teams in the Sweet 16 come from one league, and the SEC is capable of doing it this year because of the depth.
Jimmy Dykes with us here on the Morning Rush. Coach, Auburn, that atmosphere this year and has been incredible. And I've seen some people speculate that it's overtaken Bud Walton Arena. And I think Bud Walton, when it's at its pinnacle, I've been to Rupp, I haven't been to Auburn, but I think Bud Walton's better than when Rupp's at its peak. In your opinion, do you think Auburn's overtaken Bud Walton as the toughest place to play in this league?
Well, their student section is the best in college ball. It's by design how they have those students basically wrap the court from end zone down the side into end zone. And it'd be tremendous if Bud Walton was able to do that someday, because Bud Walton students are phenomenal. There's a lot of them that are distanced away from the court. So I think it's the design of the jungle that makes it so impactful. I've been a couple of games there this year, and it's the real deal. And opposing coaches come in on game day shoot-arounds, and they understand how hard that building is playing right now. It's half the size of Bud Walton, which also I think impacts it, because it's only 8,000 or 8,500, whatever it is. So the noise, there's nowhere for it to go. It's kind of a Cameron Indoor type. Tommy will understand. It's a Barn Hill Arena type effect.
Yeah.
There's nowhere for the noise to go, so
it's trapped.
Yeah. Those are two great. The best home courts in SEC are Auburn Arena right now and Bud Walton. So, absolutely,
Coach, I'll ask you off that. There's some renovations coming to Bud Walton Arena. Hunter Yurachek's in a situation where, hey, I've either got to make more money with skyboxes, do renovations, do that, maybe shrink it, or do I want to make this place even more hostile? And I don't know how you couple both and do both without losing money. How do you balance that as an athletic director when you want to make as much money as humanly possible, but at the same time, you don't want to lose some of that atmosphere that Bud Walton Arena could lose?
I don't know of any school in the SEC that money's a problem. And the TV contracts and money rolling in, they're making more money per school than any league out there. But to your point, you have to capitalize on the opportunities that you have. There's money in Northwest Arkansas. I'm sure they've done their marketing that says we'll support suites in Bud Walton Arena. So I think you got to go with the suites. But we talked about earlier, you got to find a way, I think, to get those students more impactful on game nights. and where the cameras are designed. It's the other thing that the Jungle has for Auburn. The cameras are always opposite the student section, so you see it, man. They're impacting the game, not only in the arena, but when you're watching on TV, you just get the feel of, man, that place is crazy. And if there's a way to design that where those students are more involved visually while you're there and impacting, kind of wrapping the floor, I think you got to look at it. And you can't. I would not just base that entire decision to renovate Barnhill or Bud Walton based upon how much money can we make off of it. I think you got to have a good balance of, can we make more money, and then ultimately, can you get your students more involved?
Jimmy, we all see Eric Musselman now with the sling on and protecting that shoulder, rehabbing that shoulder. What impact prior to his surgery do you think it had on his coaching and on his team? And since he's kind of gotten some relief and gotten that shoulder on track, how do you think has maybe changed the course of the season, perhaps? Because I don't think we all knew to the extent of that shoulder injury, and clearly, he had to miss a game for that, the one at LSU that I think you were a part of. How do you think that shoulder injury and the surgery and the recovery has impacted his coaching this season and this team?
Well, I was only a part of the game for about 4 minutes, if you remember, because the internet service went out. And Tommy, this is great. Tommy, you're gonna like this. So this is the only week this year. I have a game every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday. This is the only week this year that both of my games are home. I had South Carolina and Mississippi State last night. So we, ESPN sent make sure you get the internet people out there. We'll pay whatever we have to do to hardwire stuff. They did that the first time right off the bat, and it was just a neighborhood internet problem that just happened to hit at the wrong time. But they've come out the last couple of days. They were here yesterday morning, and as he left, he said, the only thing I can tell you is when the weather gets bad and drops to really freezing temperatures, sometimes the whole system kind of slows down and everybody loses their signal strength. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's a chance tonight. We're going to start snowing. I'm doing an Arkansas game again from my house, and there we go again. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But
we'll have to give you a key to our studio over here so you can get in.
Yeah, I may have to. Yeah. But Eric told me, I talked to Musk 2 days after his surgery, and he said, Jimmy, that the pain was horrendous prior to me getting this fixed. Like, I couldn't sleep. So I don't care what business you're in, man. If you can't sleep and you're getting by on 2 or 3 hours sleep, it just affects your day. You guys know that. I mean, you just go through foggy all the time and disgruntled and in a bad mood. And I don't know how much it's affected the team's turnaround. But that's a big game. When they didn't have him at LSU and Keith stepped up and went down there and got a win, man, it looks like that's when the season changed. Yeah. And that was a big game. But for whatever reason, I love the big lineup. He's playing his junkyard dogs for the most part, the most minutes, and Arkansas is in a really good spot. They just can't go over there tonight and lose the game. Like, that's a bad loss that really sets you back. I don't think it's going to happen, but talking with Eric yesterday, I don't know if that's the number one thing you're guarding against, because Georgia beat Alabama. They're capable of doing it, but you've got to be ready to play tonight if you're Arkansas and take care of business.
Yeah, just can't play down to their level. It feels
no,
like
you can't.
You've got to find a way to get out to an early start in this ball game, because I've kind of labeled this as it's not a must win, it's a can't lose.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, because the atmosphere is not going to juice you up. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of Arkansas film because I haven't had them on my schedule since the LSU game, but I dive into them more today. Like, you know how Bud Walton, I'm sure, has felt with the atmosphere, and it's not going to be that tonight. Like, you got to have Jalen Williams, who controls the team, and J.D. Note, who controls the team. Those guys have to make sure that they're at that magic level ready to play, and not depending on how the opposing building feels during warm-ups, the energy of the place, all that. Like, you've got to bring your own. But Arkansas is a mature team. I expect them to handle it, but that's a big part of it.
Coach, before we let you go, I don't think you probably gotten this TV assignment yet. Maybe you have, but if you do have, next Tuesday night in Bud Walton Arena, when I'm assuming the number one team in the country, the Auburn Tigers, still coming to town. If Arkansas can't find a way to beat Bruce Pearl's squad, do you think they go undefeated the rest of conference play?
Yeah, I don't think my crew does the ESPN games on Tuesday night. I think that's an SEC network game next Tuesday because we have Kentucky at South Carolina. I'd love to watch it. I'd love to do it actually because that's going to have one of those feelings like when Kentucky came in here a few years ago and threw the ball up in the scoreboard and it got stuck at the end of the game. Like that's going to be that crazy of an atmosphere. I don't see Auburn losing. I said it early in maybe. I think I had them when they went to Alabama and won. Auburn won at Alabama, and I said during that game that they're not going to lose more than 2, maybe 3 games. And I think 3 now might be a stretch. If they lose, it'll be at Arkansas, potentially at Tennessee. I don't see them losing at home, and they're not going to lose in the jungle. At home floor is too good, and they don't have the home and homes with Kentucky this year, so they don't have to go back to Rupp. So. If Auburn stumbles, I would think Arkansas, percentage-wise, would be their best chance to lose.
Well, the BP Van Pelt had it on a graphic last night. The BPI for Auburn favored them in every game, but the smallest percentage was 56% chance of winning against the Razorbacks. So Arkansas had the best odds according to BPI the rest of the way. Jimmy, have a great call. Good luck with the internet, and we'll catch up before the season's over.
Okay, guys. Have a good day.
Great stuff from Coach Dykes this morning, Tommy.
There might be less football being played, but BetOnline has way more stuff to bet on this playoff season. From scored, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the #1 spot for all things NFL betting in 2022. And with the new year comes a new updated desktop and mobile website. Sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BELIEVE to get started. That's BLEAV. And it's not just football. BetOnline's basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC odds coverage is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your #1 online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts.